Hey, I'm Sarah, and this is the Goddess in Training podcast. This isn't about being perfect or polished or having it all figured out. This is about what happens when you actually start listening to your body, your intuition, your patterns, your truth. I'm asking big questions and having real conversations, sometimes messy and sometimes magical, with people who've lived through it, grown through it, and still don't have all the answers. If you've ever doubted yourself, betrayed your gut, or wondered if you're the only one, you're not. Let's talk about it. Hi, welcome back to Goddess in Training. I'm Sarah, and today we're diving into that sacred space where intuition meets action, where soul becomes goal. I'm joined by my friend Laura Wade, a soul to goal guide and empowerment coach who helps women move from striving to thriving, from overwhelm to harmony. We first connected here in the Roanoke Valley over women's lunches and free Reiki clinics, and I've been inspired by the clarity and compassion Laura brings into every room. In this conversation, we talk about shifting from seeker to sage and what that actually looks like in daily life, how to align what you want with who you are. Hello, worthiness and self-love. To the passion test process for clarifying your top 5 priorities, and why the feeling you're after matters more than the checklist. Laura also shares details about her new community series, Ready, Set, Reset, beginning November 10th, perfect timing for entering the holidays nourished instead of depleted, and the bonus vision board party in January to set your year with intention. All the links are in the show notes. Take a breath, soften your shoulders, and let's step into the season of the sage together. Hi, welcome to another episode of Goddess in Training. I'm your host, Sarah, and today I am here with my beautiful friend, Laura. Laura and I met a while ago and have been attending women's lunches together and also participating in some free Reiki clinics, which is something that is new here in the Roanoke Valley. Laura has some classes coming up, so I'm super excited to learn more about your journey and how you got to where you are today and what you have going on in the present and what's coming up in the future. So, Laura, thank you so much for being here.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Sarah.
So, how did you start? How did you get into the healing profession?
Wow, it's been a long time. I actually started in the mid 90s, well, early 90s, like 93. I was really into personal growth and personal development courses and things. And some of them were related to the work that I did at the time. I was in financial marketing. And so some of them did apply to sales training and things like that. But some of them were just totally for my own personal development and growth. And I got really interested in Marianne Williamson and listening to things about the Course in Miracles. So that was one of the areas that I got fascinated by. And then another thing was I did an experiential training and attended that, a 3-day workshop that changed my life forever. And when I was sitting in the audience,
Was that with Marianne?
no, this was with an experiential training company that is no longer around, but it was so profound for me that as I was in the audience and I was going through the exercises, I thought, I want to do this. I want to be a transformational leader like the person in front of the room and do this and change people's lives, because so many people's lives changed that weekend. And so I actually worked with that company for a little while and learned more about transformational training and was told, yeah, this is what you're here for. You're here to be a transformational leader and train people and facilitate these types of workshops. So that's when I first got started. That was back in, like I said, around 93, 94. And then as time progressed, I went in and out of what types of trainings I liked, what I was interested in, and things like that. And then in 2007, I got certified as a passion test facilitator.
Okay.
And so that's when I really started. I had young children then, but I knew there was something else I was supposed to be doing back in that field again, because I had been out of it for a little while because my children were young. And so I was focused on being a stay-at-home mom with them. And when I got certified as a passion test facilitator, I had things start changing in my life. I started getting more involved in my writing again, because I'd always been a writer, but I started getting paid to write more frequently. So that was really wonderful. And then I started doing the trainings, the workshops with the passion test, and helping people figure out what are they most excited about in life and how can they align themselves with that.
Wow. Wow. And so tell me a little bit more about what the modality is of passion tests and how that then transformed in the next stage of evolution of your business.
So the passion test is based on a process created by Janet Atwood and Chris Atwood, and they had just started teaching other people to do it when I got certified to train. And it's a process where you identify your top 5 passions. Because we can really only focus on about 5 things at a time, 3 to 5 things usually. And a lot of what happens, especially in today's world, we get very scattered and spread out because we're trying to focus on too many different things. And therefore, we dilute
Right.
basically our energy.
Right.
And then what happens is we find we're not really spending the time and focus on what matters most to us.
Mm-hmm.
And part of learning what matters most to you, I'll do an aside and say a lot of people think that it's selfish when you focus on
Right.
yourself, right? And you
Right.
want to know what's important to me. But the key is really what's important to you and what you're passionate about, what's in your heart and what makes your heart sing is what you're here to do. That's your piece of the puzzle to contribute to society.
Yeah.
In whatever regards. I mean,
Yeah.
that can mean with your family, that can mean with one person, that can mean with thousands of people. So knowing what you're passionate about puts you on that path of purpose. And so that's what the whole passion test does, is it gets you started realizing what's important to you, why are you here, and you start following that trail of what brings you joy, because that's what you're here to share with other people.
Right. And so you worked with Passion Test for a while, and then how did your business evolve after that?
It evolved because I continued to learn and grow. I learned new modalities as well. So one of the things that happened as I was delivering the passion test is I realized that a lot of the people that I worked with, once they figured out what they were excited about, they didn't always believe that they deserved to have it. So I started working with people about feeling worthy and deserving. So that was one thing that it evolved to. And the other thing is I started realizing that self love was part of the issue also. So we also work a lot on self love when I work with my clients. Worthiness, deservedness, being inherently worthy and deserving, not thinking there's something we have to do to be worthy and deserving.
Right. I mean, that's just so ingrained in us that what we produce is who we are. That's where our worth comes from, but that's not it at all. And I feel like that's just kind of programming that keeps us from really creating and being our true authentic selves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And working on our beliefs, our mindset is a
Mhm.
big part of what I work with my clients on. We look at what's the underlying belief that's causing you to think that, and how can we shift that? So we do a lot of work around mindset.
And what kinds of transformations do you see in your clients?
Wow, there's so many.
Yeah.
Part of it depends on what they come in with, of course. And then, I'm a soul to goal guide. So part of it is helping them figure out what aligns with their soul. And that starts with knowing your passions, but it can be even deeper than that. Where are we connected to source? And how is that flowing through us? And how are we allowing it to flow through us? So helping people will figure out what their goals are based
Mhm.
on their alignment. Because sometimes what happens is we have these goals, but they aren't really aligned with who we are. They're either things other people have told us are supposed to be important to us,
Right.
or things we just think we should do,
Mhm.
um, or it's what we were expected, or we saw other people do, or we're bombarded these days, especially with so much from the outside, and we're not really listening to ourselves on the inside about what's true for us. And
Mhm.
so sometimes we're busy, busy, busy striving and trying to get things done all the time, and we're not taking the time to go inward and figure out what really matters to us. And is what I'm doing and the actions that I'm taking actually aligned with who I truly am at a soul level? And so taking the time to step back and figure that out
Yeah.
is really important, because we can work really, really hard and spend a lot of time striving towards a goal that isn't aligned with who we are and our purpose here.
Mhm.
And therefore, no matter how hard we work, it's never going to happen. And that happens to a lot of people, where we think that we're supposed to do certain things and we spend all this time and energy on those things and never feel fulfilled. And it's because we're like, I guess the saying is, your ladder's up against the wrong building, right? Climbing the wrong ladder.
Right.
So just recognizing that and aligning, because once you align it and go with the flow, it's a lot easier to have that kind of fulfillment and success.
That really resonates with me because so often we're given this roadmap as a child. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Mhm.
Or our parents saying, like, I want you to be a doctor. Or not even something that specific, but we get in our heads, well, we have to make this amount of money in order to have fulfillment and have the family that we want and build the life that we want. And okay, well, then if I want this amount of money, it limits what my profession can be and what my actions can be because I'm now tied into this level of financial stature that I have
Right.
in my head that I need. And I've never just naturally listened to that. I think that my parents weren't really like that. I don't even remember being a small child and saying, like, I want to be this when I grow up. I just never had an answer. And it wasn't until my adult life where I kind of looked back and I was like, is there something wrong with me? Because I've just floated and things have just come into my life. I'm like, okay, well, that seems okay. I'll do that. And that's always how I've lived my life. And I was reflecting this back to a mentor of mine. And he said to me, he's like, Sarah, no, that you've been doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You're listening to your intuition and that goals can get in the way of our true purpose. So how do you marry the soul with the goal? Is it that once you have a full understanding of what our soul's true purpose is, that we can then set those achievable goals that make sense?
Yeah. So what we do is once we feel that connection within our soul,
Mm-hmm.
and we have those ideas of what are our passions, what are the things that bring us joy,
Mm-hmm.
then we like step backwards from that and say, in order for me to have those things, to create, to do what is in my heart's calling to do, what are some of the actions I can take to do that? And for me, those actions also always include making time for your soul and
Ah,
staying in communication so that you're not constantly just stuck in the doing again, because
uh-huh.
that's what you're trying to avoid. You don't
Yeah.
want to just be stuck in the doing, because then sometimes you don't take that step back and listen to your intuition. And so taking that time to step back and listen to the intuition before you write down what are the actual steps to take to have this happen.
Yeah.
And then I thought it was interesting that you said that along the way, sometimes things would happen, come up, you didn't really know what you wanted, but it would present itself and it would be like,
Right.
okay, I'll do this.
Yeah, exactly.
And that does happen when even if you do know your goals, it doesn't mean that you're attached to your
Mm.
goal. It doesn't mean that that is the only possible outcome for you to be satisfied or happy. It just means you have an idea of the direction you want to go. Kind of like if we were going to go from here to California, I would want to know how I was going to get there.
Yeah.
But along the way, if there's something really cool that happens, if there's something on the side of the road that I want to stop and relax and see, and experience, it's okay to do that. I don't have to rush to the goal.
Mm.
I just need to have an idea where I'm going, and then along the way have that flexibility, grace with myself, because also things could happen. There could be something with your health, or there could be something with a family member or another loved one. So things don't always go the way that we have them planned. That goal that we have may not happen in the time frame in a container that we put it in. And it may not look the way we think it's going to look when we get there, even. And that's okay. To really enjoy living from soul to goal is to understand that there is that flexibility and that life is going to happen, or life is lifey, as I say sometimes.
Yeah.
And so when that happens, that's okay. If you're not attached, that gives you that opportunity to be present and use your intuition to know what is the next best thing for me right now in
Mhm.
this moment.
Love that analogy of the roadmap, but deviating off of the road. And something I've been thinking about a lot, I've been working on building this resort in Costa Rica and what I actually want it to be. And one thing that I think about a lot is when people go on vacation, not only to Costa Rica, but anywhere, they often go with a checklist. Like in Costa Rica, I want to see a sloth, I want to see a tapir, I want to see a toucan. And you've got that list and you're attached to this very, very specific goal with very, very specific things. And then people go on the trip. And again, especially in Costa Rica, things never ever go as planned. And that's part of the magic of traveling really anywhere, is listening to your intuition and being flexible and not having that attachment to this very, very specific outcome. And anyway, so I was thinking that I would love to create a space that when people come to the resort, instead of saying, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to see, this is how I want to feel.
Yes.
Is that something that you talk with people about when they're talking about their soul?
Yes, and it's so funny when you first started talking, that's exactly what I was thinking is it's about the feeling that you want to have.
Right.
I do a vision board workshop, and that is one of the things I offer usually in January. And it's great because it does give you that visual of what would it look like when I'm living my dream life. But one of the things I always tell people is the pictures are there to evoke the feeling that you want to have. That's what it's really about is the feeling, because if you never had that particular thing happen, but you have the feeling that you want to have, that's
You
it.
have it.
You
Yeah,
have it.
exactly.
Because the only reason we want certain experiences or we want certain things is because we think it's going to create and give us a certain feeling. And marketers know this. I guess my marketing background helps me a little bit with knowing that. But marketers know that, and all advertising is designed to make us think that that product or that service or whatever it is going to give us a certain feeling. And that's the end all be all. We're going to have that feeling. It's a short-lived experience if it does even give us that feeling, right? Which there's no guarantee we're actually going to have that feeling. But that's what advertising is designed to do, is to evoke that feeling and the idea that once we have that thing, we're going to have that feeling or that lifestyle. When really what we're really craving at a soul level is the feeling, and mostly the feeling of fulfillment. And that can come in a variety of ways. And it can be, small acts of kindness can bring that fulfillment to us. Meditating and just having peace, even for a short period of time, can bring that feeling of calmness and peace within ourselves. And that's a lot of what we crave, is that peaceful feeling, calm, happy, joy. And all those are momentary feelings, really, because we move through our feelings. And it can move from sad to happy. If you watch a child, you see they move through their feelings very quickly, right?
Yeah.
And they're okay with that, but they'll really feel whatever feeling they're in, and they'll let you know it, and then they move through it. And I think we start stifling that as we get older and trying to contain our feelings or put labels on them and say some are bad and some are good, when really they're all there to give us feedback and to help us live as human beings while we're
Emotions are also our way to connect with other people, with source. It's another thing I've been thinking a lot about. I'd love to hear your perspective on manifestation, because it sounds like that's basically what you're helping people do. Manifest what their goals are, manifest the feelings that they want to feel. And as I've been leaning into manifestation, as an example, a few months ago said, well, I just really want ease. I want to feel ease in this world. I don't want things to be hard. And as soon as I named that feeling, it was a very, very short period of time before I realized, oh, wait a minute, I already have that. Do you find with your clients that they have that same kind of realization as they're working with you?
Well, a couple things happen. One is sometimes the first feelings that come up are the opposite.
Okay.
They start recognizing where they don't feel that. Like if it's ease, say they might recognize, I don't feel ease in this situation or about this person or what being around this person or whatever. And so they'll start to notice that. And then they kind of start noticing some of the thoughts that they're having that are leading to the dis-ease feelings, right? Because there's a thought that's preceding that feeling. Sometimes we don't notice the thought because sometimes it's a subconscious thought that gets us started down a path. And so having that awareness, and the awareness starts bubbling up. And that's something that we work on, is being aware. And that's one of the things that when I'm working with a client, what they're saying to me, I'm hearing beyond what the words are that they're saying. I'll hear, what is that underlying belief that's bubbling up for them right now? And how can we start shifting that so that they have a belief that's more supportive of who they are now and who they're becoming and what they want to share and do and be in the world. And so working on that underlying belief and the subconscious parts of things that come up. And then also, um, we talk about our language, what we notice, like the more we're grateful for something, the more of that thing is going to be in our lives. So the same is true for the negative things, if what we call negative things. So if there's something coming up that we feel like isn't in our lives and we want it, that we're saying we're lacking it, right? So the first thing is to recognize we do want it, but then to realize, well, by wanting it, we're saying we're lacking it. And that's the manifestation part. is letting go of the idea that there's lack because it does already exist. It exists somewhere because you're aware of it existing, right?
Right.
And it's just believing that it exists for you and
Mhm.
starting to allow that into your consciousness and believing that's true. I'm actually doing a program right now. I'm taking a program. It's called 40 Days of Prosperity with John Randolph Price, I want to say. It might be the opposite direction, but anyway.
Uh-huh.
um, but it's for 40 days, every day, listening to affirmations about abundance.
Oh.
And the whole entire premise is that we are abundance. It is us. And once we are aware of that and we allow it to flow through us,
Mm.
that we are our own supply and it is all here within us, because we are one with God. So having that recognition of it already is. I already am,
Mhm.
and allowing that and raising your vibration to be in alignment with that, because I think that's a lot of with the manifestation, the law of manifestation and law of attraction. People kind of get the first part of it, of the idea that they attract things and they create from the inside out.
Right.
But they don't realize that as long as we're thinking it's all outside of us, we're separate from it and we're not in in vibration with it. And so getting into alignment with that vibration is
Mhm.
what's really important.
So in your writing, you talk a lot about going from being a seeker to a sage. Talk more about what that means and what that's looked like in your own life.
Well, first I want to acknowledge that I still seek. I do
We all
still
do.
seek sometimes. Yeah.
I mean, that's the
I
journey
love
of
a good
life,
book and a
right?
good training, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's also part of my human design and my makeup
Mhm.
is I love knowledge and I love wisdom. And knowledge is more learning things from the outside, and wisdom is more from what we already know within us. And that to me is the secret to the sage. Is obviously since the 90s. I mentioned I have been a seeker, right?
Yeah.
So I have looked for answers outside of myself. And I think there's a difference between looking for answers outside of yourself and thinking that's where the answers truly are, and reading a book or going to a training and realizing, this is what's been happening to me for the past several years, is I already know this. I already know this. It doesn't mean I can't learn some new things or a new technique or tool, but the basic concepts and principles, the universal ideas are already within me, and especially everything that I need to know to live my purpose. If I didn't have any other things outside of myself ever again, I would have everything within me to live my purpose. And so do you. And so does
Everyone.
everyone.
Mhm.
We all do. And we're really told a lot that we have to look for things outside of ourselves and learn all these things. And with technology, we feel like we're always having to learn something new there. But the problem comes when we rely on the external sources to be our answer to something.
Mm.
Because the true answer, the only one who really knows what's best for us, is inside of us. And that kind of seems like a contradiction when you're talking to me as a coach, right? Like, so then why would you want to have a coach? And for me, it's because I mean, I have coaches, and the reason is because they reveal back to me what I already know.
Mhm.
And that's why I say I'm a soul to goal guide, is I'm not the guru. I'm not the person answering the questions for you. I'm giving you some tools and techniques, and I'm asking you to go within and figure it out. And I
Mhm.
will reflect it back to you, because when you share with me your answers from some of these tools, I invite you to look at this. And what about this? And I ask the questions to help you figure it out inside and come from within to what's really important to you, because you do really have all the answers inside of
Mhm.
yourself.
Yeah, I take the same approach. In reality, when I'm sitting down with somebody, I don't know anything, and I'll admit that. Really, I cannot tell you where you're going, where you've been, where you should be in this moment. And you're right. It's really a remembering. I think we all have all of the knowledge that we need, and it just helps to have somebody again ask us those questions and give us permission to know what we already know and set aside all of the doubts that have been thrust upon us, really.
Right.
Um, because yeah, we already know, like with the manifestation and the ease. Yeah, it's already there actually.
The other thing that you mentioned made me think of this as well, is that a coach or someone else outside of you is also there sometimes to believe in you when you don't believe in
Oh,
yourself.
Yes,
because
exactly.
because it's really about holding space and the holding space, holding a mirror up so that someone can see what is inside of them and what is being reflected back to them, and then also holding that space where sometimes I believe that you're capable of something or that you are already the qualities that you say you want in your life. I believe it. I already see it. And sometimes it's just, like you said, it's reminding you of what you already know
Right.
and what's already there and holding that space when you can't do it for yourself yet. So I do a lot of that, helping people get to that level of confidence that they know that they do know.
Exactly. Do you find that when I've sought out coaches and healing modalities, sometimes I go in with one thing in my head. As an example, I saw a hypnotist many, many, many years ago, and I went in, I was like, I would like to lose weight. Can you help me lose weight? And I experienced the hypnosis and I came out of it and have no recollection really of what happened during that session. But the result was I had a realization that my marriage, my relationship was not at all what I needed. Do you find that people come in with one purpose and then they learn that there's actually something deeper that they need to be looking at first?
Yes, that definitely does happen. And a lot of times it could be something where they come in thinking, I want to find out what my purpose is. And as they're discovering what their purpose is and what they're passionate about, they are realizing that maybe certain relationships are no longer serving them and their purpose. They're not aligned with where they are now in their lives. So that's a really good example. And I've also had the opposite happen where people came in and they were really focused on their career, and they realized what they really wanted was a really special, significant relationship in their lives, even though they've been telling themselves for years they didn't because the last one didn't work. So they were not letting go of the history of their relationships to make room for the relationship they really wanted now, and where they weren't even acknowledging that they wanted one.
Yeah, that happens so often. I think to people in general that we get so stuck in the past and people release those attachments to the past.
Well, part of it is when you start really focusing and having a clear vision for what you want going forward, that helps you start letting go of the past because you realize that's not serving you anymore. So, a lot of it is just helping people get very clear about what they do want, work on their mindset and beliefs that they can have it and
Yeah.
are deserving of it. We do affirmations and other tools that I walk people through. There's some exercises that we use to help people release.
Hmm.
And I'll be the first to admit, releasing has not always been the easiest thing for me. I still have my moments. And so I have the understanding and the grace that it can take time
Hmm.
sometimes to release some of those things. It can also be done quickly, for some people or for some circumstances, it can be done quickly. When our heart's been broken, that can take time for us to heal that again
Hmm.
and for us to feel like we want to take risk
Yeah.
with putting our hearts out there again. And at the same time, that's the only way we ever really know and can connect on that deeper level and have that kind of intimate relationship is if we're willing to allow ourselves the opportunity to get hurt again. Because it really is an opportunity to love someone deeply enough to be able to feel that kind of pain over things not working out or over a loss. And so being able to shift our mindset about it and take the time, like not rush into it. You don't want to say I'm ready when I'm not ready, but you also don't want to hold on to the past so long that you have resentment and anger and it festers and you hurt and you identify with that heartache so much that you don't allow yourself to heal and let other people in. I think I've seen that happen with people before where they so identified with the horrible relationship, you know, and then they generalize that to all other men or whatever. And then they don't give themselves that space and the opportunity to have a close relationship again.
Hmm.
And even when it's what they really want.
Yeah.
So I think it's just really important for people to acknowledge what they feel, realize what their thinking is, and that their thinking is based on the history. And if you read anything from Joe Dispenza or listen to any of his conversations, presentations on YouTube or anything, he talks a lot about your history is not your future at all. They're not the same thing unless you make them the same thing. And the only way to predict your future is to create it. And so he talks a lot about creating from what we want going forward, not from our past.
And it's uncomfortable, right? I mean, I think that's part of the reason why it's difficult, because as bad as something was, if it's known to us, there's a certain sense of comfort in that, and jumping into something that's unknown, creating something new is scary. It's uncomfortable. How do you help people navigate that discomfort as they're launching into something new?
Well, it's interesting because there's two different kinds of people. Some people like to jump and hope the net will appear, right? And some people are really good at that, having faith. Some people, and that's great, because when you have that kind of faith that it's going to work out, and you can take that jump, and you have an inspired idea, boom, just do it, right? And then there's people who they have an inspired idea, they know what they want, because we take the time to get clear, what is it that you really want? But for them to jump like that, it would always be like a rubber band effect. You stretch it out, you let it go, and boom, you're right back to where you were before. So they have to take baby steps. And that was that was something that I had to realize was okay. That it was okay for me to take baby steps, because sometimes I just wanted to jump. And sometimes the circumstances of my life didn't make sense for me to take a jump like that, to leap. And I wasn't actually ready spiritually to take that leap. So it depends on, which type of person you are and where you're at in your journey as to which way is best. So that's one of the things we look at is, does it make sense for you to not have a plan B and to just, I'm doing my plan A. It's happening. No matter what, I'm committed. It's happening. I'm at least going to try it. If it doesn't work, I'll have another plan A. And then other people need that plan B and need to take the baby steps. And I say this with people, especially with people that want to start their own business. It's the same thing. Some people, it's you need to just jump into it and do it and quit your job and do it. Most people need that little safety net because their mind is going to sabotage them if they don't have it. So they need that little bit of safety, and they need to take the steps along the way before they can totally step into being an entrepreneur.
Right.
And that works for them.
It's more comfortable.
Yeah. So that's a ways to still have some discomfort over doing something new, but don't do it to such a degree that you feel unsafe, because then your mind will rebel against you.
Yeah. Then you just give it up. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely have those moments building my business where I'm like, what on earth am I doing? But since I did dive in, I don't really have a plan B. So I just keep going, hope for the best. You said something about people being spiritually ready for change. What does that look like in clients, and how has that kind of evolved in your own life too, your own spiritual evolution?
Most of the time when people come to me, they are spiritually ready because that's why they find me, especially since Soul to Goal Guide.
Right. Using the word soul.
Kind of give away that they're ready. And then for me personally, it's just been a journey for me. And I would say that part of it was learning to trust myself and back to intuition again about what was next for me and was I ready? And I still have to check in and do that. It's an ongoing process to be spiritually ready for the next step. And sometimes we don't feel ready, even when we're being told we are ready. It's time. And that's a big part of it for me, is taking that time to go inward and meditate, to journal. I journal almost every single morning, because for me, that's the way to process what's going on in my mind and my heart. Like it helps me connect. Where's the connection between the two? And what is the mind telling me that may not be in alignment with what my heart is telling me? And how do I get them to work together? And so I think that's part of it, is figuring out you're spiritually ready. And sometimes you have to get your mind to come along with that. The Soul to Goal Guide, that's actually an example. That came to me years ago. As I came out of sleeping, I was told, you're a Soul to Goal Guide.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. What does that mean? And I didn't have a definition for it. It was just a knowing. And so I knew that. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't claim it. I didn't sign my, newsletters with that or anything for probably a couple of years. And then I started using it, but I still didn't feel like I owned it. Right. And that wasn't how I introduced myself. It would be in some of my writing, because that was a little bit safer than actually saying the words out loud. And then it became, no, this is who I am. I am a Soul to Goal Guide. That is my role. And so I think that's how it happens for us sometimes is we have that inspired idea or that feeling that something is meant for us, and we may not embrace it right away.
Yeah, that definitely happened to me too. And this podcast came to me in a dream in
Yeah.
a very similar way. I woke up, I was like, all right, I guess I'm doing a podcast. I have no idea how to do a podcast or what that is going to look like. And now here I am. So listen to your dreams. And it may not be right here, right now, but I think that when those things come to us in that really significant way, they don't leave us. And so for me, it constantly kept popping in until I pulled the trigger and did it.
Yeah. That's why I encourage people to meditate,
Mm.
because I feel like a lot of our inspired ideas come to us overnight sometimes,
Mhm.
right? And sometimes in the shower, which is not always convenient. Part of the reason they come to us then is because we're relaxed and we're in that more open space. We're not focused on something else usually. And so we're allowing the ideas to come to us. And sometimes it's because it's also in the morning when we've first gotten up
Mm.
and we're still in that state between the conscious and subconscious and conscious. And as we're in that state, a lot of ideas come to us, which is why we wake up with ideas at different
Mhm.
times of the night
Yeah.
sometimes. And so meditation gives us that same kind of in between consciousness and unconscious space where we're slowing down. We're taking that time to be still and allow ideas to come to us. And the ideas that are inspired ideas are always the ones that we're supposed to act on. They come to us for a reason. And if we don't act on them, somebody else will, but they come to us because we're the ones we're supposed to act on them.
Exactly.
We've touched on some of these things, but clarity is so important, like
Mm.
knowing what we want. And that doesn't mean being closed to the other ideas that come to us. Because a lot of times, once we have that clarity about what's important to us right at this moment, that opens up the doors
Mm.
to the resources, ideas, people, opportunities to come to us, and then we get even more clarity because we may have the idea that this is my goal. This is what I'm going to do because I'm passionate about it. I love it. Da, 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 da. And then all of a sudden, we're meeting someone else who's saying, "What about this? What about this?" And then we refine the idea and the goal a little bit. And then if we don't stay attached to it and we allow it to unfold, that gives us the opportunity to be present to whatever's coming up, to those intuitive hits that we get. Like you know, about people coming to visit somewhere. I will say, I do usually have a checklist of things I'd like to do when I go on vacation because I never know if I'm going to be back in that place again, right?
Yeah.
So there's some things I like to do, but I like to leave that flexibility and freedom of time in there too, to allow, oh my gosh, I met this amazing person that I didn't know I was going to meet, right? They just showed up in my path, must be for a reason, and have a conversation. And they tell me about something, and I go do that thing instead of one of the things on my checklist.
Uh-huh.
And so I think that life is like that too. As long as we give ourselves the flexibility and freedom, the space to be present to what's coming up for us in the moment, because that's guiding us to the next best thing for us. So don't be so busy.
Yeah.
Leave some space. Leave some space.
That's great advice. And when you do have that clarity, and it allows you, I think, to better filter the information that's coming in and know in your body, in your heart, in your soul, what's meant for you and what's not meant for you.
Mhm.
And my experience has been that sometimes it's like a waterfall, a deluge of synchronicities, people all moving in the same direction, pushing me in the same direction, and ideas flying at me from so many different directions that are all aligned with what I had already set as my goal, as my
Right.
purpose. But it does require that openness to allow those things to come in and the discernment at the same time.
Yeah. And I love how you explain that because that's exactly what it is that when you have that clarity, you're taking steps in the direction of your dreams and the universe is saying, "Oh, I see you're serious about this. I'm going to support you in this. And I'm
Mhm.
going to show you another way you could do it or introduce you to this person and you're going to have a whole nother idea of a way to expand this or live your purpose that and it like I said, and it may not be what you originally started. Like maybe the podcast turns into a TV show.
Mm.
You don't know what it might
Yeah.
end up looking like. But starting with the idea and taking the action on it staying open as you're on the journey to what's appearing before you so that you can say yes to the other opportunities that present themselves and to the people who show up, because that's a big part of the journey. And when we're open, it's amazing the people that we meet, like
I
you.
know.
So
Yeah,
having that opportunity and not being attached. And there's a little bit of a paradox in that, in knowing what you want, but being open to it
exactly.
not looking the way you think it's supposed to look.
Uh,
And that's that trust that the universe has your back and things are working out for your highest good, whatever it may seem like in the moment, to
mhm.
trust that it's working out for your highest good.
Exactly. So you have some workshops coming up. Tell us a little bit about what you're planning and also the season that we're in too. I feel a lot of heaviness in the fall, just me personally, but I've heard other people say the same thing. Where we are in the world, the trees are dying and there's a lot of transformation happening around
Hmm.
us. But I think it feels even bigger than that this year. I think people are looking for a lot of support as we're transitioning individually, but also collectively into something new. I think people feel that there's something right around the corner. Are your workshops going to help people in this period that might feel a little heavy?
Yeah, actually, that was another thing that the inspired idea that came to me was Ready, Set, Reset. And it is an opportunity. It's designed for women to come together in community online. It'll be via Zoom, and we'll come together over a period of several weeks and take the time to go inward and reset ourselves from within. Because I do feel like this time, for all the reasons you said, is the perfect time for us to do that and to take this time to step back a little bit. And we're going into a busy season of the year also, where especially I find as a mom, even though my children are now young adults, I'm still the planner for the
Mhm.
holiday season and coordinating everything and the meals and the where are we doing this and when are we doing that and what activities are we going to do together as a family and when are you available? So I feel that um, it becomes a busy time, and it's also a time when we really want to enjoy the holiday season. And so this is the time we're starting at November 10th is our first date. And we'll meet weekly, and we're going to do some exercises together to really take that time to nurture ourselves. We're going to start with a review of the year and say, what's worked, what's gone well, and we're going to celebrate those things because we also do not take the time to celebrate.
Oh,
We often finish one thing and we go right on to the next thing, and we don't even take a breath to acknowledge what we've done
mhm.
and what has already happened. And then we're also going to look at, well, so what would I like to be a little different? And so how am I want to tweak that going forward. And then we're going to talk about renewal and spend some time doing some self-care things and things that are truly nourishing and help set you up for success going forward in terms of continuing your self-care. So it's not going to be a let's do something today and not go back to it,
Mm,
but
mhm.
let's talk about some ways that you can incorporate self-care and nurturing and filling your own cup, because that's so important to be able to share our gifts with the world. We have to take care of ourselves. And so there's nothing selfish about taking care of yourself, putting on your oxygen mask so
Exactly.
that you can take care of
Yeah.
other people and share your gifts with people. So we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna go into revisioning and talk about what does it look like going forward? What is your vision for the future? And what are some of the ways you can start making sure you are going to be implementing that? So you'll go into the holiday season with some of these tools, already taking care of yourself and nourishing yourself and having a clear vision of where you want to be headed in the new year. So as this season rolls into the next year, you've kind of got a head start on the new year.
Right. Because so often we think about that January 1st, and then there's not that much time. Then we rush into something and it allows us to evolve. And I love that you're doing this in community too. How I have found such amazing community here since moving to the Roanoke area. And we don't allow ourselves to just
Mhm.
sit and be with other women. And so that's so special that you're going to have a group that will go through this process together as well.
Yeah. And then we'll have a bonus session in January that will be the vision board part,
Okay.
and it's gonna be a party. We're gonna make it fun and share with each other what our vision is for ourselves. And so I think there's also power in sharing that with other people. And sometimes when you share your vision, that's when other
Mhm.
people jump on board with it and they can help you make it happen and be in community in creating our visions.
Do you have a sneak peek about what your vision is for the next evolution of Laura?
Well, I'm looking at doing a master program next year
Okay.
and taking people through a longer course. I've never done a really long, like 6-month type thing. I've usually capped it off at 3-month timeframes. And so I'm looking at, well, what would it look like if we spent 6 months or even 9 months together birthing something new? So that's why the 9-month has come to me is maybe, what do we want to birth and how can we support one another in doing that? And so I am looking at doing that for the new year.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking forward to see this come together. Thank you so much, Laura. This has been so
Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you for tuning in to Goddess in Training. I hope something in this episode stirred your knowing or softened your heart. If it spoke to you, share it with someone who needs it, or leave a review or comment to help others find us. If you're watching on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to hear more conversations like this, please consider supporting Goddess in Training on Patreon. For more tools and offerings to deepen your intuition practice, visit goddessintraining.online. You can also join the Scroll of Sashat on Substack for twice-weekly stories of how I followed my intuition. The music for Goddess in Training is Madre Ayahuasca by Arkawa, and you can find more of his music in the link to his website in the show notes. Remember, your intuition is not a mystery, it's a memory. Keep listening.
Resplandor del fuego, estrellita, tabaco santo, fuerza de rapel, soplo de luz, soplo encantado, viajecito, bendición del cielo, fortaleza, tigrecito de la selva, madre haya